here are the trends that I think we're going to be seeing and what we're seeing already right now. Number one is human-like chatbots. So the 1.0, I like to, this is the term I've coined, but I've separated 1.0 chatbots from 2.0 chatbots. So the 1.0 chatbot, most of us should be, may not be, but we should be familiar with, which is where you program a chatbot, you give it, okay, if this person does that, then you give them this option. If they click that, then it shows them that. Simple if this, then that kind of programming, which is similar to an IVR, which has benefits on its own. It's real time, there's no delay, and it's very consistent. You give it that thing and it's only going to throw out that, and your path is clear. We're now moving into the age of 2.0 chatbots. And so this moves from manual programming to dynamic programming, where not only can this chatbot throw out pre-programmed responses, it can also search a database, pull from information you have, and then actually show results or give answers that it thinks, right? Coming back to the thinking, that it thinks is right. And that can be very powerful for interactions. And all of the existing benefits, like it being real time, no delay, consistency, are already there. And on top of that, it's dynamic. 2.0 chatbots are also making use of natural language processing. So before, where you had to type in an exact thing or pick a number or whatever it is now, you can type like you'd write to a person. I am looking for white sneakers that I can wear to a formal event, for instance. And it will search the database, parse through all the data, and then filter out and show you something that matches that unique search or that unique request that you've given. So it's different from a search, but it can act like a search as well. So 2.0 chatbots are going to revolutionize website interaction, where right now websites, people have to come to your page, they have to go through all your stuff and find the page that they're looking for, answer their own questions, and then decide if they want to work with you. If they don't have that kind of time, or they don't want to spend that kind of time, they can spend under 30 seconds or maybe under 20 seconds with a chatbot, get their questions answered, book a meeting, and be in the door. So very powerful. That's number one. Number two is automated content creation. And now here's where we get to the good stuff. I'm sure several of you, or a lot of you, have been waiting to hear about this ChatGPT thing. Here is your time. This is when this comes in. So tools like ChatGPT, and there's others as well, like Copy.ai, and other. The ChatGPT is not the first and not the only one, but it's the one that's kind of gone viral and blown up, which is good because now awareness is improved for it. So what ChatGPT basically does is it's a content generation engine, right? So it can produce essentially any type of content that it can understand, and it uses a lot of things to be able to understand content. So you can utilize ChatGPT to write flows for like a presentation. You can use it to write essays. You have students right now cheating on their tests by using ChatGPT to write their essays for them. You can use it to write blogs. You can use it to write blog outlines. You can use it to write captions, emails, really any type of content. The content that comes out of ChatGPT is probably not going to be perfect in version 1, but it's pretty darn good. Let me say that much. We use it a lot. We don't use it as our final result, but we use it as our first cut that we can then edit, make changes to, and refine. And it creates a volume of content that you can kind of filter from and use, which is, again, very valuable rather than having to do that from scratch. There are other tools like Copy.ai, which can write, it can rewrite, it can change. You can give it a piece of copy, it can change from one style to another style. So you can change it from casual tense to formal. You can change it from formal to persuasive to comedic. These things can write jokes. Some of them are kind of funny. So it's an interesting time. So automated content creation is going to be big. It's already happening now. It's going to get more so. Image is the next type. So we've talked about content in terms of copy, right? And written copy. Images are next. Right now, the image design process or the graphic creation process, if you need a banner, you need an ad, you need a social media post, whatever it is, you put down a set of ideas, a brief, your graphic designer thinks through some concepts, figures out, what's a way to bring this thing out, and then puts it all together. The way AI does this in terms of thinking is it's not that typical process. It's not creating something necessarily original or fresh, but it's using design standards to produce something that is pleasing and that matches the science of design. So one of the things I like to think about and like break down in all of this is the art of marketing and the science of marketing. The two go together, and the best marketing, of course, features both. But when we started marketing way back in the day, we didn't have a lot of science to it. We didn't have data review. We didn't have A/B testing. We didn't have subliminal messaging. We didn't have research, focus groups, all of this kind of stuff that gives us helpful information for marketing, right? We were kind of operating on intuition. That's the art side of things. Recently, in the last, say, 70 years, 80 years, marketing has become increasingly scientific, where now we know and we can almost predict with crazy accuracy how much a person is going to click on an ad based on what color that ad is, what size the button is, what the headline is, what is in the image. That's kind of crazy. So where AI comes in with image creation is not improving upon what a human designer can create, but by using the science so calculated, in such a calculated manner, it already can in some cases, but it will continue to be able to, over time, produce better results in terms of, and I say that with a slight cringe on my face, because even to me, though I live in this world, some of these things even put me a little bit on edge, but it will be able to produce better conversion rates, better click-through rates, better response rates to images and stuff that's created by an AI designer by simply following the rules of typography, of size, of eye flow, of contrast, of color. All of these things are sciences, right? And it knows how to use those. And it can also now create images in real time. So if you've seen the DALL-E 2 project or any one of the other image creator tools, you type in something like a horse, like an astronaut on a horse on the moon, and it won't look at an image and then go cut and paste from different images. It will create the pixels of an astronaut sitting on a horse, sitting on the moon. It's a fresh creation, right? I heard a story the other day where someone submitted a painting from DALL-E 2 in a art competition and won. That's kind of scary. The rules will change around these kind of things and there'll be checks and stuff, but it's just funny to see that, this is the first time in history we can do something like that. So I got a little bit sidetracked with talking about design, about art and science of marketing, but tools like Microsoft Designer are getting there and almost there already in some cases, right? So automated content creation is number 2. I'm gonna pause for a second. I saw a couple questions come in, so I'm gonna take that reel now. All right, so I see Deepu Nair, AI personalization presupposes applying machine learning to customer data for enhancing customer interactions. With its algorithms, you can trace not only customer profiles, but their purchase history, buying behavior, and psychological traits. No wonder AI adoption in sales is forecasted to grow 139% between 2020 and 2023. So Deepu is clearly way more intelligent than me. Those are a lot of big words, Deepu, but that's a very true statement. And we'll talk a little bit about a couple things that relate to what you're saying in terms of omni-channel and sort of user history and behavior. We'll come to that in a second, but thanks for that comment. That's very true. Rohit is asking a question. Can we say that AI is here to help us do what we do better and consume what we do more effectively rather than take over our jobs and invade our privacy? Yes, that's the short answer to that question. What it can do and what it's here to do might be different things. A lot of it is yet to be seen. A lot of it comes down to how we interact with it and how we sort of adopt it, right? And that's why I think adopting it as a tool and thinking of it as a companion and as a tool rather than competition is so important, because all of these softwares and tools work on training. They work on experience, right? By doing this thing 100 times over, 1,000 times over, that's how it learns to do it better. So if we train it to do the things that we need it to do and support us, it's going to get better at that. So that's kind of a sideways answer to that question. All right, so number 2 was automated content creation. Number 3 is smarter omni-channel communication. And this comes a little bit back to what Deepu was talking about right now. Omni-channel communication versus single-channel communication. So single-channel communication is where you're pushing out an email, right? That person gets the email and you can see their email history. You can see if they opened it, you can see if they clicked on it. That's single-channel. Omni-channel is where each of your channels are basically synced up together. There's tools that can do this. And you have an ID for a customer or a prospect or a contact. And their interactions on one channel are sort of in context with their interactions on another channel. So if you go to that contact record, you can go see that you've sent them an email, they opened that email, but they also messaged you on Facebook Messenger, and maybe they dropped in a website chat on your chatbot a long time ago, maybe they filled a form, maybe they downloaded an ebook. All of this lives in one place. So both for live interactions where it's a person responding, you can see all of that history and then communicate with people based on that context. Here's where it gets kind of crazy though. AI can also see the history and where they interact with different things, and can use that to predict where is the best place to contact them, to decide whether they should receive that email. How quickly should you respond to their WhatsApp message or their Facebook message request? What is the information they're really looking for? And create sort of a pattern of behavior. And that's what Deepu was talking about, where it knows in combination from their history with you, their behavior on your website, the things it's reached out for. If it's you have an e-commerce site, it can tell from their purchase history and pull all that together. So omnichannel is super powerful. And coming back to what we talked about earlier is about relevancy for people. Omnichannel has huge advantages there, where you send them an email not knowing if they want to check that email, maybe they open it, maybe they don't. If you have omnichannel, they can give you their preferences. You can communicate based on those preferences. If you send them an offer in 5 different places and they respond to that offer in one place, then you can kill the sequences of the follow-ups, right? Otherwise, if they don't respond to something on email, sometimes you might send a follow-up, right? In this case, if they've responded to it somewhere else, they'll stop receiving that. So customers feel much more like they're an individual person that you're caring for rather than someone on a big list. That makes a big difference. The next one is hyper-personalization. So right now, again, in most of our marketing advertising over the years, we have pushed out content. We have some segments, we have demographics, we have geolocations, we have age, gender, all of these things tie into what we show to who or what we send out to who. That's personalization and that's segmentation. We're now in the age of hyper-personalization. Netflix has something called the segment of one. So if you think about segments, we may have 50 customer segments, maybe we have 10 customer segments, maybe we have 1,000 customer segments. Probably a little bit difficult to maintain 1,000 customer segments, but it's possible, right? What about unlimited customer segments? What if every single person that you interacted with was their own segment? Coming back to Netflix, the recommendations that you get on your Netflix profile, there is not a single other Netflix profile in the world that looks like your home screen. And that is only possible through AI. If someone had to manually serve all of that, figure out what you liked, and then recommend something to you, that's impossible. That could never be done at scale, right? So this hyper-personalization started with things like Netflix, Spotify, even Google. When you go to Google, you may think it's an easy search. I go to search and I put in something and then Google gives me a response. It's not that simple. Google is going through thousands of millions of pages and then coming back and showing you a response that's unique to you. The next one is AR and VR penetration. So AR is, of course, augmented reality, where you have, say, a phone or a device where you're seeing the real world, but also seeing something layered on top of the real world. And VR is, of course, full virtual reality, things like Oculus. These are going to affect a lot of the experiences of the way people buy, the way they used to get trying stuff. You may have seen some apps and softwares have they can imprint through AR. You open your camera, you see your room, and it can put a 3D model of the couch that you're looking at into the room so you can see what it's going to look like. This is the kind of stuff that's happening with AR and VR right now. The last one is data, insights, and predictive analytics. So right now, again, we talked about this a little bit before. Data right now is a very manual process and it takes time. Right now, data is becoming automated. It's also becoming predictive. AI is using data that it already has about people and live interactions to predict what they're going to do next and what they're going to respond to and where trends are going to move. This is going to be one of the biggest game changers because this is something as humans we can really only guess about. We don't have the capacity or the capability to review the kind of data at scale in real time to be able to produce some of those predictive analytics in a real-time basis. So we've gone from before where you did, say if you wanted to measure the speed of your website, right? You copy paste it, you go to a speed checker, you paste it in, you get it live response. That was the speed at that time of day. What's happening now is AI, because it's running on your website all the time, can tell you the average speed of how long it took the users to access your website on a given day, in a given hour. And it keeps changing because data speeds change. Sometimes it's mobile devices, sometimes it's desktop devices. So that keeps changing and it can keep track of that for you. And it can use that to predict if you decrease your load time by 1 second, how many more people will complete a desired action on your website. That's the kind of predictive analytics that are here to come. All right, I'm going to pause for another couple questions, and feel free to ask some more questions at this time. We're probably about the 2/3 mark here. I haven't planned exactly how long we're going to do this for, but feel free to ask any more questions about this last section. In the meantime, I'm going to see what's here. So we got one from Anandeep, which is, can Google distinguish AI generated content, and is it okay to use it all the time? I don't actually know the answer to that right now. According to what we've heard from Google, they don't have anything in place to be able to distinguish AI content. They have tools in place for like anti-plagiarism, so they can tell which website it came from. I don't know if it's there yet. It probably will come out with it soon, but I have to ask a question. At the end of the day, does it really matter if the content that's on your website from Google's search engine standpoint, right, whether it wants to rank you or not, does it really matter whether you produce the content or AI produce the content? Or does it matter that the content that you have is beneficial to the person that is finding it? That's the big question. And so we're going to have to think in this very customer-centric way rather than a production-centric way. Another question here from Mega, I'll take real quick, is if you refuse to use AI, how long will you last? So that's trying to get me into predictive analytics. I can't answer that question, but I would say it's not a matter of do or die, whether you'll survive or not survive in terms of, the creative person or your business or whatever it is. But I think if we go back to the analogy of the axe, if you had two people chopping wood and one of them was trying to work without an axe and one of them was working with an axe, I think the answer becomes a lot more clear. It's not about necessarily survival, but it's about how quickly and efficiently you can get a job done that you need to do. And I think that's what we're going to see more of.